Hi everyone, I'm Scott. Welcome back to my channel CineRam. It's been at least 4 weeks, if not more, since my last video. I hope no one was waiting and holding their breath for that. I say that a lot because I just don't make videos that often these days. The last few weeks of work have been very, very hectic. I've worked like 10, 12-hour shifts, put in tons of overtime due to our low staffing at where I work. Aside from just like catching up with some theatrical films and a few series that I'm watching, I really haven't taken a lot of time to watch the non-MCU Marvel Directors series that I was planning on doing. I've only done one so far, but I knew the next one wanted to be Jon Favreau because he was the first guy to direct a film for the MCU. He directed the first Iron Man and then, of course, Iron Man 2. And he plays Happy Hogan in many of the films. So I wanted to do him next. I also want to talk just a little bit about another film that I saw recently, but I'll get to that in a minute. Favreau, of course, started out doing indies. He co-starred with Vince Vaughn in Swingers, and then he made a movie called Made, also with Vince Vaughn. And I was planning on actually doing a double feature, Swingers and Chef. However, I realized right before I saw the film that, wait a minute, Swingers was not actually directed by Jon Favreau. He's in it with Vince Vaughn, of course, but he directed Made. He did not direct Swingers. Swingers was directed by Doug Liman, who went on to do The Bourne Identity and Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And Edge of Tomorrow. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm only doing one film then, because I didn't get Made. You know, I could, but I just, I'd never really been that interested in the movie, so I never got around to seeking it out. But I did kind of want to see Chef, because Chef is an interesting sort of, there's a parallel in Chef along with Favreau's career, because the main character, Favreau plays the main character. He works in a high dollar restaurant, basically crafting of specialty dishes and everything like that. But when the big shot critic comes to review the restaurant, the owner of the restaurant, played by Dustin Hoffman, says, "I want you to play your hits." Nobody goes to see a Stones concert and says, "I don't want to hear Satisfaction by Mick Jagger. You know, I want you to play your hits. Don't do anything crazy or inventive or anything like that." And Favreau's like, "Okay, you're the boss." So he brings out all his old reliables, and the critic just savages them. And so he has a big disagreement with the restaurant owner, and he ends up quitting. This is all sort of the setup for the main plot of the movie, which is him trying to reconnect with his son, because he hasn't been spending a lot of time with his son. He's divorced from Sofia Vergara. They have a 10-year-old kid. When the opportunity presents himself, he decides to start up a food truck. It's a suggestion actually from his ex-wife to start a food truck and to just have total control over everything that he's making. Just not have to answer to anyone. Just be his own boss and make what he wants to make. And so he makes Cubano sandwiches in Miami, and then moves on to New Orleans, and then to Austin, Texas, on his way back to California, where he lives. And in the meantime, his son comes along with him, and John Leguizamo also worked with him in the restaurant. He quits his job and he comes to work with Favreau making Cubano sandwiches, this is the opportunity that Favreau's character has to really bond with his son and show him what he's passionate about, show him about collecting and shopping for the right ingredients, and really putting the care into the work that he's doing. And the kid really picks up on it, and he really starts to like it, and so they find some common ground there. And that's really sort of the core of the story, is him reconnecting and bonding with his son, who he just wasn't able to spend that much time with because he was so focused on his work. I like this movie. This is a fine movie. There's not a lot to it. It probably means more to people who are actual fathers, and I'm not a father. Yeah, it's a perfectly decent movie, and I noticed a lot of the dialogue scenes were people talking over each other a lot, talking simultaneously, and this really sort of came through also in Iron Man 2. There's definitely some dialogue scenes in there where people are just like talking over each other and just like it's like word combat, actually. And I imagine, I haven't seen Swingers, I still have not seen Swingers, but there's a heavy sort of Vince Vaughn influence there. Vince Vaughn is somebody who just talks a mile a minute and it's just very difficult to keep up with him. And I imagine there's a lot of that in both Swingers and Made, which unfortunately I haven't seen, but knowing Vince Vaughn, I know what that guy's sort of verbal style is, and I think that Favreau really sort of picks up on that and brings it to these other movies that he made. Favreau did Iron Man, of course, which got a lot of acclaim, and Iron Man 2, which didn't get so much acclaim, and then he made Cowboys vs. Aliens, which was kind of a flop. And then he made this movie, so there's sort of a parallel here with the character, basically, like his bosses are insisting that he do this one particular thing, that's supposedly very marketable and audience-pleasing, right? Or diner-pleasing, as the case may be, and he's not satisfied with it. And the critics, of course, are ripping him apart, much like how they did, I suppose, on the last two big-budget pictures that he made before Chef. So he says to be his own boss and do something small-scale, which is exactly the kind of film that Chef is, even though it has Robert Downey Jr. and Scarlett Johansson and Sofia Vergara and John Leguizamo and a whole bunch of other people that you probably will recognize. So there's this parallel with Favreau's career and the career of course, the chef character in the movie. So yeah, that's nice and all that. By the way, Scarlett Johansson has a scene where she's basically lounging on Favreau's bed in his apartment, wearing only a black T-shirt and waiting for him to prepare a pasta dish for her, and she's unbelievably sexy, seriously. I mean, it's nuts just how sexy he is just by lying there and smiling at him. Yeah, so that's a great scene right there. And there's a lot of really good scenes with him just preparing food. I'm glad I ate before I saw the movie, because I just would have been dying watching all this great food be prepared throughout the film. So yeah, clearly I still have some Favreau to get caught up on, but I've been curious about that movie for a while, so I wanted to check it out. So that's sort of that part of the video right there. And the other part of the video I wanted to talk about was the fact that there's going to be another marathon coming up on certain YouTube channels like Ryan Chattaway and Razor Wire Reviews. I had this one film that I wanted to see for a marathon. I was just sort of putting it off for a long time because I hadn't really completed the marathon from 2016. I did a marathon. I did a movie marathon for 2016, but I never really made the video because there was one film that I wanted to see to sort of conclude the thing, and that was the ultimate cut of Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. I was actually going to call my video Chattaway v CineRam Marathon of Justice because it was going to be me. It was going to be basically about me going to the theater to see the movie, but it's the wrong version, and so I go see the IMAX version. But then, of course, I learned that the extended version is actually more complete, and there's a lot of material cut from the movie that has it make more sense. So it would have been like my third viewing of the film, or maybe like my second and a half viewing of the film. But the ultimate cut was only available on Blu-ray. I waited for it to come to HBO. It never did. I waited for FX to broadcast it like they did with the road cut of Days of Future Past. They haven't. And as far as I know, the only way to see the movie, other than perhaps special screenings, is to see it on Blu-ray. And I did not have a Blu-ray player for a long time. Finally, earlier this year, I finally got around to getting one. So I got a Blu-ray player. I'm not entirely happy with the functionality of it. They really seem to have cut back on a lot of the fun features on disc players. You can't really magnify the picture at all on the new players. You can't program the chapters to play in a customized fashion like I like to do with the DVDs that I've had before. On the plus side, it actually plays Blu-rays, so I get to watch Blu-rays now, so that's nice. But yeah, there's drawbacks as well. Anyway, with the marathon video, I'd planned a whole bunch of other things to include with it. I had basically all these movies that I watched for the first time, and when the marathon was over, I really couldn't remember a lot of details about any of them, especially the ones that I hadn't seen before. I wanted to go back and review some of them and reread the plot synopses and basically drop bits of info about the movies into the video along with the commentary that I recorded as I was doing the marathon, but that would have required me to transcribe everything that I said on the videos, and taking the time to do that was not appealing to me. I started doing it, I really just kept putting it off, and here it is now over 3 years later, and I still haven't gotten all that done, and I don't think I ever will, really. But one of the things that I wanted to do, in addition to that, was also do a little bit of sketches, stage a conversation between myself and Ryan Chattaway, much the way that Luke did that with Ryan for a couple of his marathons, mimic the scene from Dawn of Justice where they meet at Lex Luthor's library benefit or something like that. Yeah, benefit at Lex's place. There's a conversation between Clark and Bruce that I thought would be fun to do, but not as well, of course. And I also had an idea for a couple other comedic bits and a little segment on, the different types of widescreen that there are, and maybe a conversation with my Carol Danvers poster, in which I talk about wanting to go see the movie again. But anyway, the end of it was going to be me finally at long last getting the Blu-ray, or getting to see Dawn of Justice, the extended version somehow, and making that like the end of the marathon video. And I only just now got around to seeing it. It's a little over 3 hours long. It's almost the exact same running time as Avengers Endgame. And while this version of the movie is more complete, the material has been restored to make more sense of some of the stuff that happens in it, it's still not that good of a movie. My biggest complaint, a lot of people complain about the silly Martha scene, and how that convinces Batman to not kill Superman. And the beef that I've always had with that is, why would Superman use his mother's first name instead of somebody calling her mom or mother or mama or something like that, as he's being like, is in great pain and great distress because of the kryptonite spear that's hovering right in front of his face. But instead he refers to her as Martha. And why would he think that Bruce would know what that meant? Doesn't make any sense. Really doesn't make any sense. And then Lois comes in and she says, Martha's his mother's name. After Bruce is like, why did you say that name? Why did you say that name? He says, it was his mother's name. His mother's name is Martha. Except that she didn't actually hear Superman say the name Martha. She was too far away to hear it. Yeah. And then, of course, they decide to use the spear. Batman and Superman in one room decide to use the spear to kill Doomsday. And Lois Lane goes to retrieve it, except, of course, that she wasn't here to hear that conversation. And so she goes and gets the spear for no reason and almost drowns. And then Superman has to save her. And all that stuff, yeah. A lot of dumb stuff happening in the second half of the movie. Some of the earlier stuff is more justified. We find out that Clark was specifically invited to cover the library event at Lex's place, and we all know why, because Lex figured out well in advance that Clark was Superman. That's obvious just from the trailer. Why would he make a big deal out of introducing Bruce Wayne to this reporter who's only been working Metropolis for a year and a half and really hasn't done much of anything noteworthy, if he didn't know that the guy was secretly Superman? He already knew it. I imagined a scenario around the time the movie came out where Lex basically gets information from his sources about Superman's age. He basically claimed in the first movie that he'd been on Earth for 33 years. And Lex would go, okay, so if he's pretending to be a regular human being most of the time, and he ages the same as regular humans, or at least appears to age the same as regular humans, then that means he would have been around 18 years old 15 years ago. So if we look at the high school yearbook books from every single high school in the entire country and compare the photographs to images we have of Superman now, we might be able to figure out who this guy actually is. So I imagine him basically hiring a whole team of researchers to go through all these yearbooks, or maybe the digital versions of them, looking at the photos of the male students from 97, 98, 99, around the time that Clark would have been 18, around the time he would have been finishing high school, and finding that photograph and therefore finding out his identity and finding out who Martha is, because of course he found out who Martha, his mother, is, and kidnapped her and everything like that. So yeah, that was sort of stuff that wasn't in the movie, but could have been, because I dreamed it up. Aside from just that, I feel like the people were really having fun in the movie were Jeremy Irons and Gal Gadot and Jesse Eisenberg. A lot of people complain about Jesse Eisenberg not really being like Lex Luthor. But a lot of people complain that Batman really isn't like Batman because he kills criminals rather than just subdues them. And Superman really isn't like Superman in whatever way it's important to them. They're fictional characters, They can be reinvented. They can be changed. And I'll never like any Superman as much as Christopher Reeve, but to me, Henry Cavill's been a fine Superman. and a pretty good Clark Kent, although I really like, Christopher Reeve's version of Clark Kent a lot more. But yeah, Jesse Eisenberg obviously is having a lot of fun playing this character. And he goes a little bit too far over the top, but most of the time he's really a lot of fun, and I enjoy his scenes and his performance quite a bit. Probably my favorite bit in the movie was when he gets invited up on stage at his event to speak. And so he gets up with the microphone and he goes, speech, speech, blah, 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 open bar, the end. And he has a lot of other fun bits in the movie as well. When he is threatening Lois and Superman at the top of that tower towards the end of the movie, that's a fun bit as well. I really like that scene a lot. I rewatched it like 3 times. So yeah, don't really like the movie overall, but it's a lot more stylish than Justice League. Justice League is also not that great, but it's just a more fun film overall, whereas this is just like deadly serious most of the time. Yeah, some people really dig that, but some people think that it's an absolute masterpiece and it's better than all the Marvel movies, and I'm like, no. But thanks anyway. I do acknowledge Zack Snyder for his style, for one thing. I think that he's got a great style, and he makes movies that make great trailers, that's for sure. I really like seeing the trailers for pretty much all of his films. So yeah, so that's all I've got to say on that. Yeah, I just wanted to sort of get that out there because it's been 3 years of me basically not saying anything about Dawn of Justice. Not that everyone was, not that I felt it was very important to cover that movie. There's plenty of movies that I've seen that I haven't talked about. And I really sort of enjoy being able to see a film and not have the pressure of reporting on it for YouTube or anything else. A friend of mine has been encouraging me to get on Letterboxd and write about all the movies that I'm seeing. And I just, I don't like feeling obligated to do that. I like doing that if it's fun. And that's what I wanted to do here. Something fun to do, and also to catch up on some stuff that I haven't seen before. I've been watching so many series that I feel like maybe at some point I have to switch over and just talk about series, just scripted series. HBO, Netflix, regular networks, and everything like that. There's a bunch of them that I watch regularly, and there's a few that I'm catching up on right now. But I don't know. Again, I like watching stuff without the obligation of having to report on it. And quite frankly, I haven't been watching nearly as much YouTube over the past couple years as I have in the past. I've been, instead of watching videos about stuff, I've just been watching the stuff, or at least a lot of it. Game of Thrones just ended. I just finished Big Little Lies, which I was really excited for because I'm the biggest Reese fan. And that was really good. And right now I'm watching Animal Kingdom, and I'm getting caught up on Fosse Verdon, which aired earlier this year, but I still haven't gotten around to finishing that. And Legion, of course, is airing right now. So that's the stuff that I'm watching right now. And of course, when fall comes around, there's more stuff to see. And of course, there's all the Netflix stuff to see, and all the Hulu stuff to see. I watched the 2nd season of The Handmaid's Tale, and it was absolutely stunning. So yeah, that's what's going on with me as far as what I'm seeing. And this weekend, of course, Inglourious Basterds 2. No, not really, but Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Tarantino's new movie, is finally coming out after 4 years of 3.5 years of not hearing from Tarantino, not seeing a film from him since The Hateful Eight, and I'm super excited to see that, of course. So that's where I'm going. That's what's going on right now. It's a big sort of update video for me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will not take nearly as much time to do my next non-MCU Marvel director video, but I haven't decided what that is yet, and I've got a bunch to choose from. So I'll keep you posted on that. Thanks very much for watching. I've got a playlist, of course, so that's in the description on the YouTube page, or if you can find my Facebook page, that's linked below, and that's where all my videos are posted in addition to that. So thanks again. Take it easy.